everyone! Today we are going to be painting a pinup style kitsune. I was asked to do a foxy lady, and so I decided to take that quite literal. So we are going to be doing this pinup inspired kitsune. Alright, so the materials we're going to be working with today, you'll obviously want water, palette. Because I'm working on an 8x10 canvas, I'm going to be using very small brushes because there's a lot of detail work. So I'm going to be using a size 2 round, a size 0 round, a size 0 detail, and a size 6 flat. All right, all very small brushes for this canvas. If you're painting on a very large canvas, you'll want to use larger brushes, probably still sticking with your details, your rounds, and your square. Helpful is a palette to work on. You can see I've used this one a lot. The colors we're going to be doing, because this is a fox, naturally most of her will be red, orange, yellow, and white. And because we want to have good color balance, you're going to want blues in your background. All right, the colors we're going to be playing with. We're going to be doing cadmium orange. And for this, for warm colors, I recommend using middle of the road, at least paint, because it is less thin. We're going to be doing cadmium yellow hue deep, because it's more in like the orangey-ish yellow, kind of like canary. Think Big Bird. Obviously, black and white, I use flow paint. It's thinner, it's a little bit watered down. It makes it easy to work with because I'm usually using it for mixing. We are also going to be using a few different shades of red. We're looking at cadmium red hue, naphthalene carmine, it's kind of a reddish brown, and quinacridone scarlet. These are different shades. It'll help create depth. For the background, we are looking at primary blue and light blue, because she's kind of laying on her back, so this area will have to be darker because it's the ground, and the wall will have to be lighter. All right, and we're actually going to also introduce some fun stuff. We're going to be using some neon paints. I'm also, when I'm done, we'll be adding some vibrant neon orange, yellow, and white. This will help it kind of really pop under black light. And even if you don't use black lighting, using the neon colored paints, even this craft kind of paint, will help the color pop to be super vibrant. It'll give it that psychedelic kind of feel. All right, and without further ado, like with most of my paintings, we start with the background. Mostly because if you make a mistake, you can paint over top of it when you go to do the rest of your painting. So we'll start with our blue. Our darkest blue for down here. I may also do some sponge work with this to create this kind of texture, but we'll see how that kind of goes. I'm going to start with my 6 square. And I'm doing this all dry brush. Do not wet your brush first because I want a nice clean line with my square, just to get that nice little horizon line in. You'll want to do this with a ruler because if it's even a little bit off, you'll notice it as it's hanging on the wall. You're already invested? All right. Very cool. All right, and going to just trace along where I've sketched this in, and I do sketch these in using watercolor pencil, because when you use watercolor pencil, if you make a mistake, all you have to do is put a little bit of water on your brush and it rinses off. So you can kind of see where I've redrawn parts of my line using that. You can also use school chalk, is a great tool. It's what I used principally until I discovered how wonderful watercolor pencils are, and they're inexpensive. It's a great tool. It doesn't matter what level or how expensive they are. They all work more or less the same. Highly functional and low risk as far as investment in art supplies goes. The first time I ever heard what a kitsune was, I was reading a book series. And I know it's super uncool to admit this, but I absolutely love The Vampire Diaries. And the books, the original books by L.J. Ward, I think is who was the writer, or no, L.J. I can't remember, to be honest, the original author's name. If you know what it is, chime in and chat. But the original book series had like one of the villains was these kitsunes who are very mischievous, and they're really kind of fun. So I kind of love the idea of like a foxy, like a sensual kitsune, because it kind of blends that kind of fantasy in with succubi in sort of a way, and that's super cool. And you can see how this like straight flatline brush is really doing a good job hugging the curves of my lines here. And it's okay if after you've drawn on top of it, if you cover your line a little bit, you would just go over it with like a white paint after it's dry. Never try to correct a mistake while your paint is wet. You'll wind up making your mistake bigger and more noticeable than if you were to just let it dry. So food for thought on that. And then, use white paint like whiteout. I mean, that's actually what the first whiteout was just regular little white acrylic paint that they used using a typewriter, like to correct typewriting mistakes. Fun facts. You can use it the same way in art. And as to why I drew her this way, I had seen a couple of drawing tutorials for pinup styles, and I was trying to look up some fun photo inspiration for when I do my next pinup photo shoot. And I was really excited about this pose and the idea of like the tails just flowing freely out behind her. Like, I don't care. I'm so awesome. And that's just too cool for me. I love that concept. Like, pretty hair, don't care. Let it all lay out. And again, just kind of a good trick with doing a straight line like that is also to anchor your wrist down and then not move your wrist. It'll help your line stay nice and even if you're super unsteady or have tremor issues. They do have really cool stabilizer materials and different tools you can use if you do have, a condition that keeps your hand from being steady. There are tools that can help you with that. If you remind me, I'll link them up at some point on my Facebook page and on my Instagram, because they're a firm believer that art should be accessible to everyone. And in the spirit of that, I do offer traceables of this that you can use with tracer paper or using a projection model. I personally used a projection to get this onto my canvas using watercolor pencil, because I was not into the idea of trying to reproduce this drawing twice and trying to get the scale correct the second time. So using, even a little cheap projector, something you can get for like $60 off of Amazon, or I think I've even seen them in Walmart now or in Best Buy for like $40, that are really, useful as a tool to help. And you can use all sorts of fun things, like coloring book pages can be great templates for painting and inspiration for painting, or even movies, comics, all sorts of great inspiration out there. All right, and we don't want to forget to do our sides because this is dimensional canvas. And I don't really want to frame this afterwards because I'm going to mail this off to one of Infectionary's friends. So I'm not super interested in framing this. I want it to be mail friendly. So I'll have to package the crap out of it so that way it doesn't get damaged in transit. There. All right, so I've got all my sides done. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the light blue up here, but I am going to go back when this is a little dry and go over it with a little bit of a detail sponge with yet another shade of blue to help darken it up. I hope she is too, considering she is the one that chose this theme. It would be so dope that she gets to see it. Okay, and now for our light blue. And again, I'm going to stick with using this 6 square brush for outlining because I want to make sure that my line stays clean following my shape here. And I might switch to using a thicker brush after I cover my outline. Oh, hi Telly. Thank you for tuning in. Now we want to make sure this line stays super sharp because like I said, it's one of those things that you may not notice it a lot while you're in the moment in painting it, but once it's up on your wall and you see it and it's not right, it will drive you bonkers, speaking from personal experience. You'll look at it and look at it and look at it and wonder why it looks strange. Now I am cross-hatching here for texture because I don't want this to be solid color. I do want kind of like this is some sort of interesting background, even though it's going to be mostly a solid color. I'm probably going to blend in some white here too. And for this, I am using student level paint. That is at Michaels Artist Level 1 for this color because it doesn't really matter. There's a decent amount of hue and saturation. Saturation is how intense the color is. Like if you see on the brush stroke here when you do a stroke that you can still see some of the white behind. It means that the paint is sort of on the thin side, which can be a great tool if that's what you're looking for, if that's what you want. And in this case, because I'm kind of wanting this idea of texture, it's great because it'll show all of the brush strokes. I love watching painting streams myself too. There's this Bob Ross one that goes all weekend long that I absolutely love. I always see the notification always starts while I'm still at work, but it is so fun to just tune in for just, sporadically in and out in the background while you're maybe making dinner or, planning what you're doing for the next day or just taking a moment for yourself and being lazy. But as fun as they might be to watch, they're definitely more fun to do. But I say that as a girl who needs her hands busy. I do not like free time. I don't know what to do with it. Oh, you follow that too? Awesome. I love them. It is such a nice, effortless way to start off a weekend. I'm actually wondering if they're going to be going extra long this weekend because it's a holiday weekend in the US. I'll have to check into that. And while this is still wet, I'm going to go ahead and start brushing in some white as I'm going. It's important to do this while the paint is still wet so that way it can blend and kind of create a soft sort of dreamy look to it. And again, I want the texture to show, so I'm intentionally not going in a super straight line. I'm not necessarily thinking of the idea of clouds, but I definitely want it to be soft. Yes, what's fun is that Bob Ross's grave is actually in Florida. It is in the Gotha Cemetery. I have been to see it personally. It is gorgeous. There's always a ton of people who are leaving happy little trees and artwork around. It is definitely an inspirational site, and living in Florida, it's really nice to be able to occasionally visit that and see the impact. Thank you, Taylor. All right, and now I'm going to switch back and forth with my light blue and my white as I go, because I do want to have a nice little mix. It's awesome when your spouse is so much more popular than you are on the internet. He is the best. Love him. Love that he supports the craziness that is my art. You can get the traceable of this design on my Patreon. It's only $1 a month, and you get all the traceables for that month for any of the streams I do. And I think it's $4, and you'll get to see any of my previous ones. The videos are all up on YouTube for previous designs. I did a series on vintage Valentines, and I also did a series on the male Disney villains. Well, in this particular, because I do this as a traceable, it's sort of like coloring. So if you can color in lines, you can paint. You can absolutely paint. Anyone can paint. I am not a skilled professional whatsoever. I taught myself using literally online painting tutorials, just little follow along videos just like this. All right, then make it a more simple design. Like with bigger lines. This one is a little more complex, but you don't have to make it as complex as I'm doing it. You could totally do a choose your own adventure. We support all skill levels. I want your art adventure to be everything you want it to be. I did a painting class back in January, because I do occasionally do like in-person painting classes when I'm commissioned to do one. And they wanted to do like a wine glass. And, you know, it had to be like artistic and shit, right? So they wanted it. Oh, yeah, no. No negativity allowed in art. Mm-mm. Positive outcomes only. Positive outcomes only. Whatever your life journey is, whatever your focus is in your art, I support that 100%. If you want to be a paint splatter artist, go for it. It's art. It's whatever you want it to be. Oh, thank you. I'm happy to have provided that for you. 6 a.m. Fuck me, that's early. What part of the world are you from? This is true, Tellybeans. Absolutely true. You do not need to color in the lines. Make your own lines. It's your journey. There is nothing right or wrong in art, just what you observe in your reality, whatever that reality may or may not be. Oh, very cool. I went to Sydney 3 years ago. Three, four, no, it's been longer now. Holy shit. That was back in 2018. I went to Sydney in 2018, and we did virtually everything in Sydney. I was there for a week, but then we took the train out to the Blue Mountains. And to this day, the thing that I loved most about that whole trip was the stupid zoo where I was Gross Emily. That's what I call her, because she passed around a tarantula carcass, and I learned for the first time that spiders shed their skin, and then you might think you found a dead spider, but what you've actually found is where they've shed their skin and are still loose in your house. And that is fucking scary to me. Like, no, just F that. No. And the snake houses are so big. There are so many. Yeah, spiders shed their skin. Like the big hairy ones, their whole exoskeleton comes off, which is why the woman who taught me this, I have nicknamed now Gross Emily. I will never forget this fact as long as I live. I will never be able to unsee it. She passed the thing around and you could touch it, and at first I'm sitting there thinking, oh, it's a dead spider, or like it's a stuffed spider. Nope. That was the exoskeleton. Those big hairy spiders shed their skin. Holy God. And that is why they will rule the world. All right, so I've covered the sides of my canvas and touched up my lines. Huntsman spiders are huge. Huge. Oh yeah, that's probably the more correct term. You're right. It's probably molting. But in my brain, I was like, holy God, no. All right, so I'm going to do something a little off book. I'm going to use a piece of sponge here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dip it in a darker blue, and I'm going to just dab around on my darker blue area because I want this to feel kind of like carpet maybe. Oh, that would scare the crap out of me. Spiders just hanging out? No. When I see a spider anywhere, and I mean anywhere, at any point, I will start screaming and burn the house down or wake up my husband to kill it. I can't do it. Cannot do the spiders. Scream like the absolute little pansy person that I am. All right, okay, and now you see I'm just kind of dabbing, and it's creating sort of a little bit of a texture effect. And I don't recommend doing this unless you've got something underneath to protect, because it's going to get all over the place. If you painting anything and you end up with no paint on your fingers or on the surface around you. Oh, thank you. I do like blue. Is absolutely my favorite color. I want to say at least half the walls in my house are blue, and I painted my house about this color, like the whole outside of it. And if you don't have a little sponge, you can also use a toothbrush. Or if your sponge is too big, you can always curl it to get just the tip. Oh, God. No, just the tip jokes. I walked into that. I love neon pink. I don't like it on me. I don't like it necessarily in my decor, but I love working with it for other people. And I'm kind of stoked about the Barbie movie. Not because I was really so much a big fan of Barbie, because that's sort of problematic. But I love the colors and the loud vibrance. It makes me think of Lisa Frank. Yeah, no, pink is gross. Pink is gross on apparel. I am not here for that. Okay, so I'm going to set aside my sponge because I'm kind of done with that for now. But I do want to even out my texture where I couldn't get where I wanted. So I'm going to use a little dotting tool. I use these a lot when I'm doing my more particular favorite style of painting, which is after I'm done with everything, I cover it in a million layers of dots. It is a fun style, but definitely very time consuming. If you're curious about dotting, I do recommend checking out Emmy of All Crafts on my YouTube channel to see my previous Disney villains. I did Oogie Boogie, and that one I even did in black light. I did Clayton from Tarzan. His death is super gruesome. Love it. So dark. I kind of like it when Disney goes a little bit dark. You should always make frequent use of your brain. It's what it's there for. Abuse it. Make it overwork itself on occasion. I do that a lot when I'm sewing. I'll go into Hyperdrive and I'll use like photo editing programs to try and visualize what a pattern is going to look like with a specific pattern fabric. And it is a good time. Okay. Aw, thank you. Welcome. All right, now I gotta know what's this whole "you're a donkey" thing. I want to know. Fill me in. Tell me all about it. Here's my therapy couch. Let it out. I sew. I use a nifty knitter on occasion. I can't physically knit. I have a hard time holding the sticks in my hands, which is horrible because I love to paint and I love to sew. But I also quilt. Well, like, I named my business originally Emmy of All Crafts because I literally do everything besides crochet and hand knit or cook. I can do virtually anything else. I've done sculpture, I've done basket weaving. You name it at some point, I've probably done it. Oh, okay. That's cool. I like funny words. My favorite funny word is probably. I'll have to circle back to it. I can't think of it right now. I can't think of a good funny word. All right, so the next thing we're going to do. Ooh, see, I made a whoopsie there. I'll show you after it dries how to fix this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with her tails. So what I'm going to do is the bottom of the tails will start off super dark red, and I'm going to move to an orange and a little bit of a yellow and then into a white. Yes, happy accidents. You can always go back and fix something. Oh, thank you. My favorite thing to do is sew, though. I do spend most of my time at my sewing machine. Last year, I made about 52 outfits. 52 outfits. This year, I'm planning to make more, and I'm actually sewing my sister-in-law's wedding dress. So I'm very excited about that. All right, so I'm going to start with using my 0 round. Yes, 52. Most of my makes are posted to my Instagram. All right, so I'm only going to go to about here with the red. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down. One a week it actually didn't quite work out to one a week. It was more like 1 week I would make like 4 things and then I would burn myself out and do nothing the next week. That's maybe when I would play like a video game or get into a TV series and then binge again several outfits. The thing I was working on right now is actually a lot like a bustier that is built into a dress. So it's like a bra inside of a dress because I wanted to make a strapless dress to wear inside the theme parks. But I wanted to make sure it would, one, stay on my body and not fall off because, they frown on wardrobe snafus like that in public places. And I wanted it to be comfortable outside in the heat. So it was very important that I didn't have to wear like. Yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. I will dig into one thing until I'm so sick of it that I move on to the next thing. I burn myself out with a type of thing, and then I go back to it later. All right, so you see I've got my red and my orange. Now I'm going to blend those lines a little bit. So I created the separation, and now I'm blending them together, but only at the edge here. So that way it has a more seamless transition from one to the other. The thing, I didn't finish describing it. So it's like this mint spider dress. It has like a turn of the century kind of aqua to it. And then it has like a Halloween cute little spider print. And the aqua shade is a lot like that. Okay, so with the blending, all right, we'll do it again here because I'm about to do it again. So I drew up to the line or painted up to the line, right? So I've got my yellow and my orange. And then I'm just going to, while it's still wet, smear them together. So you see it kind of goes together and it's a little bit less noticeable in that change. All right, now I'm going to go into my neon yellow here. And because this is not technically acrylic paint, this is something a little different, it's going to behave a little different, right? You see it's super thin. So what I'm going to do here is while I'm putting it down, I'm going to be spreading it up. Because I know I'm going to need to leave room. And you see that kind of darkened it, and that made it a little more... Yes, different kinds of paint behave differently. They have different viscosities. So higher levels paint, like this Artist Level 2, this has a thicker texture to it. It is... a good way to think of it would be sort of like sour cream versus like when you open the sour cream and then you go to open it the next time and it's got that little bit of water on top. It's runnier. Like student level and craft level paint, like the apple barrel stuff that comes like this, would be like your level 1. It's very thin and it's kind of transparent. So it definitely behaves differently. It's not the same. It's not going to give you the same result. And depending on what you're wanting, that's perfect. In this case, it's exactly what I wanted. That thinner paint level allowed me to blend that more easy. And now I'm going to top it off here with my white. I'm just going to clean up my line. And what I might do a little bit up here is do just kind of tap my brush so it gives the illusion that there is texture there. And I'm going to go back and do that with the rest of it. You are not stupid. No negative self-talk. No negative self-talk. This is all new knowledge at some point for everybody. No one just comes out the gate knowing this. This is a thing you learn over time. I started, now I'm going to go over my same area, but I'm just going to tap my brush. I'm creating a texture. Like, you can see a little up close there. Ooh, now it went out of focus. There we go. And it gives it the idea that it's more like hair. I've probably been painting, I don't know how long, probably 6 years. 6 years I started painting. And I started with the Art Sherpa on YouTube. Love her stream. She does a lot of great work, lots of options. Definitely a great beginner point. Great introductory, and she has a bunch of tutorials on how to paint clouds, which I still haven't mastered. All of my clouds always look like dicks. Like, honestly, I hate it. I cannot paint. I cannot paint clouds. I can't do it. It's not for me. So you'll never see me paint clouds. It'll never happen. You do sometimes have to accept a limitation. That's mine. But I definitely, like, if you're new into painting or interested in painting, check her out. It is awesome. Okay, so for this one, on this next tail, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a little bit higher because this tail is a little longer. And it's going to go up to probably about here. And because I've got so much of this, I'm probably going to bring out my Neapthol Carmine, my darker red. Yep, yeah, he's laughing at me because I said dick.
Laughing because you're now going to have a YouTube video where you talk about you being unskilled at a certain thing and it's just dicks.
Yep. You know what? I accept that. There are things I cannot do, and that is one of them. Learn your limitations. All right, and I'm just going to blot in my red here, just kind of filling it in, and I'm just kind of dabbing. I'm not necessarily dragging my paint across the canvas. It's little a stroke, 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 so that way it creates this lumpy, bumpy texture. You don't want it to be smooth. Oh, I don't need any invitation to say that. I'm just weird. I am gloriously weird. I bask in my own weirdness. I don't need to be provocated. All right, and I think I'm going to add a little bit of a red ochre in here. I didn't originally call for it, but I think I need to darken that space a little more. It's just not the rich shade I need it to be. I need it to cast a little darker so that way it doesn't blend in with this one. I wish I could blame that as a contagion, but honestly, I'm just ruined for life from that. That's just me. And I think I'm going to put a little bit of black down here too. Yes, it's true. You know what? Yeah, blame my husband. It's his fault. All his fault. 100% his fault. Love him. Epic. All right, and you see I'm just kind of dabbing in some black here along the line. I don't know if that qualifies you as straight. Just saying. I think you might be confused. But if that's what you want to say, if that's what you think you are, go for it. I'm in no position to judge. I want to take it at face value. Despite my husband laughing at me.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing that you're roasted man's just like everyone else does.
Oh, well, you kind of opened yourself up for that one. All right. So now we're going to go back in and I'm going to put in my neon yellow. I didn't think I was going to laugh today, which is hilarious considering I went to a kid's birthday party.
And you were the one who swore in front of the kid, not me.
Yeah, I swore in front of a kid by accident today. I'm usually so good, guys. I usually am like the best. But I biffed up. Now you see, because this paint is so thin, when I mix the orange in, it gets a lot lighter. Firm believer in you are whatever you think you are. Of course, that also means if you think you're something horrible, then it means you need to rethink about yourself in a better light, in my opinion. Don't think negative things about yourself. Yeah, we have a swear jar at my work. And so I'm usually really good because I don't want to owe money to the boss. But I don't know. I guess I saved up all my swears for over the long weekend. I don't know. You can't blame me. I'm only human. All right, so I've got 2 of my tails in. I wouldn't say that I love to swear, but I would say that it is an ingrained family characteristic as a way of expressing virtually anything. So it definitely is sort of second nature to go for the swear, even if it's inappropriate. Maybe usually because it's inappropriate. All right, because this one is much shorter, I'm going to stop my red way down here. And I'm just dabbing on my brush to again create that hair-like texture, this fur-like texture. but I want to make sure that I'm not crossing that line because that is my Vixen's very pretty legs. And she's going to have fishnets, my dudes. Taylor sings her swears? Okay. I'm not sure you guys want to hear me sing. Nobody wants to hear me sing, just promise you that. It would not go well for anybody. All right, and I'm going to put a little bit of that, kind of that black, only at the edge here to block off the difference of that from that tail to the next. To create a shadow of a sort. No, please, you don't. You don't. He really doesn't want me to sing it. It's not good. Especially since the only songs I really know by heart are show tunes, because I like to watch old musicals. I was principally raised by my grandmother and my mom. My mom is definitely older than the average mom for my age. And so most of my introduction to anything pop culture would have been pop culture from the 1940s. A lot of Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, Judy Garland. I did Guys and Dolls as a theater production as Sergeant Sarah Brown when I was in high school. But at some point, my voice decided to do a puberty type thing, and it started cracking on me. And now it's really super squeaky, and I cannot sing worth anything anymore. But my audition song was from Singing in the Rain, and it was Good Morning. And I loved that musical growing up. It's still a favorite. um, Maybe that'll be something I do another day when Paul isn't home to be tortured by the sound of my horrific voice. And because this one's a little closer to the light, I'm going to allow a little more of this brighter yellow to show. Well, that just means that I'll have to make this a more regular thing and I'll have to stream more on Sundays. As much as I'd like to try and do it during the week, I never find enough time after work to work on anything besides sewing because I'm always so anxious to get to my machine. I'm stir crazy for my sewing machine. I took a girls' weekend and I was so desperate for my sewing machine the entire time I was gone. I cut patterns when everyone was sleeping and taking their naps. That's right, we're grown-ups. We take naps because we can. Right, and I'm going to bring some of these white dots down a little bit. And I think I'm going to go ahead and bring them down a little bit on these too. Just because I really like dots. If you look at enough of my artwork, you'll see it present a lot. And while I've got the white on the brush, now that this blue whoopsie is dry, I'm going to go ahead and paint over it white. So that way when I go to paint it red later, because red is very thin colored paint, I am trying to think about an idea for a sewing stream, like how to get the camera angle so you can hear me, but not necessarily my sewing machine. So my sewing machine is very loud, so I haven't worked out the logistics to get that to work. But it is something I want to do. It's something I'm interested in doing, especially since I'm very passionate about sewing. Not that I'm not passionate about painting too, because I do love it. But it's a different feeling. And up here I had kind of painted over my mark a little bit, so I'm going to paint white right there first and then come back to that spot. But it'll probably be mostly white anyway. Some of the things that I'm working on after this is I've actually spent most of yesterday cutting fabric. So I have a couple of things I wanted to make. I'm really excited for Pride Month next month, and I made last year a really cool double starburst pan flag style skirt, and it is an absolute favorite. I cannot wait to actually get good photographs in it because I made it last year, but then I never wore it anywhere. Like crime of the century. It never got any screen time or camera time. So I'm very excited about it. I just need to make a couple of accessories to go with it. I've got a cute little top, a bolero, but I need a purse. I need a purse. I need to make a cute little tote bag with a billion pockets, like one I just finished, like theme park toting. Tons of specialty pockets and stuff. Something for everything so it doesn't get lost or stolen inside of a theme park. Big on things with lots of pockets. All right, and I'm going to move on to my orange. I also do like capsule wardrobes for my sewing. Like I specify specific colors to the season. I don't have a lot of closet space, so what I have to do is decide what colors are going to be for a season, for a season as we experience them in Florida. Which, you know, I don't know if you do or don't know, but we don't get a lot of actual seasons here. Right, and I'm going to blend this a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to put a little bit of my black in on the side here so it doesn't blend in with the tail piece next door. And I'm going to let it kind of come off to the side here. I want this one to be super dark because it'd be coming from the furthest back. When you're painting, you want to be thinking about your light source, where your light would be most coming from, in what direction. I wish most of my wardrobe consisted of pajamas. I need more lounge clothes in my life. Most of mine are designed to fit within an inch of your breathing space because they're meant to be super pinup style. Most of the clothes I wear are designed for honestly wearing into the theme parks because that's where I spend a lot of my free time. I do love a good theme park adventure. You got a sewing machine in your wardrobe? That's dope. What have you sewn? I would watch it. I'd watch a sewing stream. I want to know. Oh, all right. You may need to get it serviced then. At minimum, you should get some machine oil to oil the bobbin. And make sure the feed dogs are clean and don't have any dust in them. Otherwise, it won't really slide through. That's true. Although I did notice that a lot of the zoos and a lot of the more like educational stuff that's normally billed to me as sort of more like a museum, very educational, is very interesting over there. But yeah, definitely move to Florida. Move to Florida. Oh, maybe not. Florida's kind of crazy right now, but maybe someday move to Florida. I love our theme parks. There are places even in the US that don't really have theme parks, so that's not even all that unusual. It just feels unusual to me because it's so much a part of my regular day existence. I love to go and be there 1 hour before park open, so I can be the first in the gate to run in all of the best rides. And because I have a heart condition, I get a disability access pass, which is sort of like the ability to cut the line. have always wanted to go skydiving. Like, that is a thing I want to do. And that's terrible because I am truly afraid of heights, but I still want to do it. The only thing that I would never want to do is the giant bungee jumping thing. And that is terrifying. I can't do that. That is never going to be on my to-do list. But I would definitely like to say I like to try all like amusement rides, amusement parks, theme parks. I went to London Christmas 2017. You guys don't need theme parks. You have a wild enough ride on your transportation systems. Like, that was crazy. I don't remember exactly where we were staying, but it took like 30 minutes to get to all of the museums. And I don't know, there was something special for me about Westminster Abbey. I got my degree in history. Like, history is my jam. Like, that's my main source of love. Like, it's what I wanted to do with my life for a long time. And when I went into Westminster and I saw that the for me it was super ironic to see Mary Queen of Scots, Bloody Mary, and Queen Elizabeth, like all just Elizabeth, I guess at that point. Not really sure of the terminology for that. If it's a past queen, how you're supposed to refer to them if they're not the current queen. Let me know. I'm not sure. What's the etiquette on that? But to see them all in the same space when they literally tried to kill each other their entire life, epic. Absolutely epic. Ah, okay. Thank you. Education. See, I learned something today too. I like learning new things. I didn't have any trouble with accents in either the United Kingdom or in Sydney. I also watch a lot of BBC, like an embarrassing amount of British television. Um, if I wasn't watching like old musicals, we would often watch really bad old sitcoms. I was trying to remember the one with Mrs. Bouquet. I lost the name of the show, but it was absolutely hilarious. I love that show. But I also grew up watching like Lawrence Welk. I my international folks will have no idea who that is, but it was basically like a big band live talk show where they would perform live. Oh yeah, when I walk in the theme parks, I'm easily walking 30,000 steps or more. Like, you will walk 20 miles with me in a park. 20 miles minimum. I've done as many as probably 27 in a theme park. There's a lot of walking. Well, the conditions in which I was raised are even unusual for my generation. Um, because of my grandparents' influence. She was born in the early 30s, and my mom was born in the early 50s. So the kind of exposure I had was atypical in regards to what we were allowed to watch on television and that kind of thing. You have to run. You have to run. You wear, and the best part is I do this in heels, like because we go into the parks dressed up in our pinup fashion. So I'm literally doing this in heels. They do have a really cool thing at Universal Studios Orlando called the Horror Picture Show. Oh, well, I only get blisters on like one toe. But yeah, it is like a blister on a blister if I didn't break the shoes in. Oh, I only own one pair. It's my wedding heels. They just get a lot of abuse. And they're cute little, like, T-strap, 1940 style character shoes. His are tall. You don't want to wear his. I can't wear his. I mean, other than the fact that they're the wrong size, they're just too tall. Those will give you blisters. Well, you do. You absolutely do, hun. Mwah. He is a lot braver than me. I can't do it. We did go to the parks once when I was wearing taller heels, and I did have to leave early because they literally destroyed my feet. I made the mistake of wearing a new pair of heels into the parks, unbroken in, and I was literally walking in flip-flops for the rest of like 2 weeks because I literally could not put my foot in the shoe. It was horrific. 0 out of 10. Don't recommend. I do like platform sandals in the parks as well, or espadrilles. Those work out really well too if you need to give your feet a break. Yes, wedges are life. Wedges are life when you need a break and you need the height. As a short girl, I'm only 5'3", and most things in the world are designed for you to experience if you're like 5'6". I need that 3 inches of height. I just need it. I need it in my life. Right, and because this one is also really on the short side, I'm going to start off with this one in yellow too. No, 5'3" is considered petite. If you're shopping for anything in the United States, the average height is 5'6" for a woman, despite the fact that every woman I personally know is closer to the 5'3" range, or even a little shorter. Three inches is a lot, especially on your feet. I come home even wearing like my espadrilles. The whole next day, when my foot is flat on the ground, my feet are like, what is this foreign feeling? What are you doing to us? We are so mad at you right now. My feet yell at me quite a lot. And then I whisper back, it's worth it. It's worth
it. The average height is actually 5'4" in the U.S.
Oh, it's
for women.
Oh, really? Because when you buy pants, it says 5'6". And when you buy sewing patterns, it's actually 5'6" a lot of the time, too.
This is according to a 2018 report from the CDC.
Facts. All right. I learned 2 new things today. The average height for a woman in the U.S. has changed. But when you go to buy pants, seriously, when they say regular, it's for 5'6". I have to buy petite pants. Well, if I were to buy pants. I don't actually buy pants. I did sew my own pair of culottes recently, which is sort of like a wide leg, like fake pants. Yes, I guess that would be true. That would be true. Everything would be bigger. It's all about perspective. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and touch up my line up here a little bit before I get up there, so that way it's not trying to cover as much. Yes, facts. All right, and just like with the other one, I'm going to do just a little bit of black down here at the side. Just so that way it's easy to tell that it's not the same tail. I don't know, whenever you think about small hands, they think about, what's that movie, It's a Scary Movie with the guy with the really tiny hands? And it mostly just kind of creeps me out.
Strong.
All right, and now I'm going to go over to this side. I'm going to have a lot of red on this one because this one is a comparatively long tail. And if you can see, I did like a secret heart here. That was intentional. Because she's a foxy lady and she knows what she's about. She's blowing a kiss with her tail a little bit. And again, I'm just kind of doing like several little dashes over and over again, just so it creates this texture, this illusion of the idea of fur. Okay, I'm going to dip into my orange, and I'm going to have the orange go, oh, probably up to about here. You just remembered you had eyes. What have you been using? Okay, all right. I would think that sight is sort of involuntary unless you're intentionally closing your eyes. Are you intentionally closing your eyes? If so, how are you typing? I mean, inquiring minds want to know. How did that work? All right, now I'm going to use a little bit more of this neon yellow because I really want to drag this like vibrant color up there. Okay, and now I'm mixing it all together.
Aki is in chat if you still had questions for her.
So, Aki, is this kind of what you were hoping it would turn out like? Or are you disappointed? If you're disappointed, I'm sorry. Good. I'm glad you're liking it so far.
Didn't you have a skin color question?
Yes. I haven't made it down here yet, but what I was trying to figure out was what to do for the skin color. I hadn't worked out whether or not I should try to make it continuation of the fox color, if I should go with more of a human flesh tone. What were you maybe thinking? I am keen to take suggestions. Take advantage. It doesn't happen often. Usually I just kind of do whatever I want in the moment. That goes for all things. Sorry, husband.
Yeah, it's alright.
I don't know that I used my favorite color in the background. I can't put that on the body. My favorite color is turquoise. I do still want it to look nice. I don't necessarily want it to look silly. Color theory would demonstrate that it needs to be a warm color or a flesh tone. Because I've made my background blue, everything in the foreground should be a warm color. Otherwise, it won't stand out as much as it should. Tan? Okay. Okay. Are we talking like Miami Beach tan or just like I spent a nice amount of time in the sun and I'm still human? There are literally like 80 shades of tan. I need you to be just a tiny bit more specific.
Yeah, we're talking like a light tan, a deep tan, a Puerto Rican tan. Where are we going with this?
I need just a little more information. Okay. Okay. So like the way I like my coffee. Got it.
Damn, you like your Akis like you like your coffee?
I guess I do. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and start the last tail, and then I'll move down into the body. I have no comeback for that. Nope, nope. I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole, but evidently you might need a 10-foot pole. I would think you would get really full with 25 grapes. I'm just going to say that and leave the rest alone. Are you not worried about choking on the pits? Like that's a lot of grapes. Oh, that is 100% a meal, Telly. That's a meal. That is a meal. 100% agree. No judgment. Absolutely none.
Jesus Christ.
That's a lot of grapes. Encouragement is sort of what I do. That is my thing. When I teach painting classes, that's a big rigmarole for me. Like, not only do I not allow negative self-talk.
Damn, Aki's hitting on you.
Oh, dang. All right, I am married. I am married. I'm very happily married. But thank you. Thank you. Oddly enough, my husband and I are sort of the same way. Definitely like color theory, but it works. It works. In the best kind of way possible. Careful what you wish for. Although now you got me thinking about like the early 90s and the Care Bears and the Care Bear stare. The Care Bear stare is really creepy, guys. Just saying. Like watching that again as an adult, super creepy. Like what were they thinking? Yeah, I am pretty particular. I am pansexual, but I am very finicky. Yes. You know what? I'll take that. I have good taste. I have good taste. Or I might just be mildly narcissistic. I do like myself a lot. Okay, now that I've got kind of the base of my tail end, I'm going to blow your mind. I'm going to pull out my dotting tool because I'm obsessed with my dotting tool. And I'm going to add some additional texture. So I'm going to go over my brushwork with my black first. And I'm just going to do a couple of light dots here in the corner, just kind of where the tails change. I liked Sunshine Bear, but I guess that's probably obvious by this point. It's sort of written and coded into my personality. Now, the key with using dotting is you want to make sure it's not the same exact color as your background, otherwise, it will not help it stand out more. It won't add dimension or value to your project unless it is noticeable. So there is, a balance to using too much, the right color. And I'm not going to use red on red at this point. I'm going to switch over to orange on top of my red. But only sort of at the edge there, to the leftmost of each tail. Oh, thank you. And have a good nap. You said it was like 6 a.m. So, yes, definitely sleep well. Sleep well. Have a wonderful day. And you can check out the final result later. And I'll also post this afterwards to YouTube. Oh, okay, you're the UK 12 a.m. I can't do it. Y'all, I'm tuckered out at 10. I am old, okay? I am an old lady. I do not like to stay up late. I am a morning girl for the win or the lose, depending on how you think about it. But I prefer to think for the win. Have a good night. All right, and now I'm going to take the yellow. And because I'm doing this as a texture and for visibility, I am for this yellow going to use my CAD Yellow 2 in the level 2. So it has a nice viscosity. And that just means that it's super thick. Like, it's not runny. Like, if you turn it, it shouldn't drip. And I'm going to put it just to the leftmost on top of my orange. And a little goes a long way when you're adding texture to things. You don't want to overdo it. And Luna, my dog, has just remembered that other people exist. All right, and now I'm going to take my white and I'm going to do just a little bit more with my white tool, kind of where the white meets, but I'm not going to do any actual dotting where I did my white for the most part because it won't really be visible. Okay, so I've got my tails in place. It looks a little like fire, and it should. That's the goal. My foxy lady is on fire. She is hot, right? All right, so we've decided that we're going to go with like a coffee colored skin tone. So what I'm going to do to mix that is I'm going to take red ochre and I'm going to mix it with white, which will give me sort of a tannish skin tone. And because I'm literally going to be using very little of it, I'm putting like the barest little bit on my palette. And I'm going to be mixing it with white. All right, when you're mixing paint, you should use like a wider brush because you don't want to ever dip so much paint that you're putting paint on the metal part. Because when you go to rinse it, it will never come completely clean and then you'll wind up with dribbles all over your paint. Right, and I think I'm going to add some burnt sienna to my mix because it's not quite the color I want it to be. It's a little too reddish still. So where's my burnt sienna? Here we go. All right, I can't find my burnt sienna, so I'm going to use a little bit of my burnt umber. Burnt umber and burnt sienna are different shades, and one has a more distinctly red shade to it, as where burnt sienna is usually more of like a deeper shade. Okay, so we're going to go with something kind of like that. And I may mix a little bit of Ad Hod white as I'm brushing it on. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and fill in like the outline. And we don't need to get too detailed for this because I am going to cover this whole area in like fishnets. Like she's going to be cool. So I don't need to get too into it here, but I want some different values in the color. All right, so I've got this on here, and I'm going to blend in a little bit of white towards the top, because that's where I'm saying the light is coming from. So it should get darker as it goes further back. So I'm going to progressively add a little white, only stopping part of the way, just so that it appears light there. You should see definitely a differentiation in the color. And then just a little more. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. And what this does is it tells you that this leg, the reason it has to be darker is because it is behind this one. So this one should be lighter than this one because the light would hit this one first, creating the shadow on this leg. And that is the reason why you need it to be multiple colors. In contrast, when I go to do the highlight on this leg, it should be much lighter than the one next to it. So I'm going to have a little bit of fill us in. And then I'll go back in and start adding my white for the value of the skin coloration. All right. So we start at the bottom and work our way up, adding white. And blending it upwards. Not blending all the way up because you do still need to have the knee being the darkest part. This is the furthest away from your light source, so it should be the darkest because we were saying that the light is concentrating right here in the center. So everything in the center here will be the lightest part of her skin. All right, so we've got one leg and it is visibly lighter than the other one, and it helps create this idea of shadow. All right, and now we're gonna go ahead and we're not gonna do the fishnet yet. We need to let this dry. So we're gonna continue down on the painting. Yes, yes. Tell me about your crafting endeavors. I want to know. The anything and everything. Tell me. I'm interested. And just like with the legs, I'm going to outline the space I'm working on first. Okay, so for this one, the light source is the center, so I'm going to allow this to kind of be dark at the edges, and then it's going to highlight in the center. And instead of the way I did it before, I'm just going to throw white in the middle and blend it to the center. And then throwing some more white in the middle. And a little more in the center. All right, so we've got that done. I do want to clean up my darker line here because that still needs to remain kind of dark right there because that's where the crevice of the leg is. That's where the leg is folding. All right, and this part is going to be a corset, so there will not be any skin coloration, but I will use my watercolor pencil to go ahead and mark out the line for the strap of this top, so that way I can go ahead and paint in the skin color of the legs. Or of the arms and in the chest, excuse me. Okay. And for this, the darkest part will be sort of at the bottom because that's not where the focus is. The focus will be on like anything else I would probably ever paint on what she's going to be wearing. Because let's be real, that's what I care about. What is she wearing? I am very fashion focused. Today I'm actually wearing a patchwork skirt that I made, and it has something like 20 different fabrics involved in it, maybe more. They were all random leftovers from assorted projects because I am a thrifty seamstress, and I become sort of the last stop for a lot of fabric. Like when I have a lot of friends that sew locally, and when they're, done with a piece of print or there's a yard or two left over, or even just like a quarter yard and random snippets, I love patchwork. I am so into it right now, and I'm thrilled that it's got sort of like a temporary comeback. Like, I actually get served ads for it now for like these really expensive high end garments that are all patchwork. Like, it's living in a moment, and I'm excited about that because I believe that textiles should never be wasted. We always go on and on about how much plastic there is in the ocean, but fabric is a major contributor to pollution and textile waste. A lot of it fast fashion industry because of the bad quality of fabrics and clothing that is made. A lot of it ends up in landfills a lot sooner than it needs to, and I'm very passionate about protecting the environment. We only have one world. We need to take care of it. And reusing and patchworking. And I make clothes out of bed sheets, tablecloth. A lot of unconventional fabrics can be used in a more mainstream way, and that is something that is very critical to my like personality. Like I love taking care of things. Except for like the dishes. I cannot take care of the dishes. That is not for me to do. That is not the world we live in. But anything else, I want to take care of it. I want to do the best I can to, limit my impact on the environment. What can I personally do? I sew like reusable coffee filters and I use those at home. And I'm big on patchwork totes, and I want to do like a patchwork coat. That's a thing that I want to do this year. I have a lot of goals. I have a lot of goals. I have a lot of dreams. I have a lot of big dreams for my sewing. All right, and I'm going to lighten the arm here up a little bit just because it's a little closer to the top. And I'm going to go ahead and fill in the chest area. But not her bustier. Her bustier I'm not filling in because that's going to be colored, but there's going to be a lot of light centered on her chest. Except for right under the chin where there would be like a shadow. She's gonna be wearing a bustier, a corset, thigh highs, fishnets. She's gonna be wearing a lot. All right, it's a lot. Even for scandalous stuff, that's a lot of clothing. Deeply uncomfortable. And I see this as a person who wears a corset quite a lot. Actually, it's not all that uncomfortable. I do enjoy a corset, actually. It's like getting a perpetual hug, and I love that. Okay. Now, I don't know what color I want to make her corset yet, but I'm thinking I will probably... Let me ponder on that a moment. I'm going to go to her hair. Her hair should obviously mimic her tail, so I will circle back to the rest of her clothing in a hot minute. And I'm going to outline her ear in red. And I am going to switch over to my zero detail brush at this point, because I definitely have more fine details to do here. There's a little less maneuvering room. And the key for getting good hair is a lot of repeated strokes over and over again when you go to fill in the space. But for now, we're just going to outline it. Oh, I don't think I ever finished describing the different things I cut yesterday. So I've got 3 things on my cutting table right now. So I've got a cute little like hostess set. It's like a loungy pajama made out of like an aqua colored knit lace. It's meant to be worn like, oh no, I'm sorry you're feeling sick. Yes, definitely rest. Rest. You can always catch up and see the end result later. It's important to take care of your health. Those are important things. Rest well. Let's see. The other thing I've got on my mat is like a 1950s style play suit. So it's like a jumpsuit that's shorts with a skirt connected. And it is in this like Run Disney print. Run Disney are races that are held inside the Disney theme parks. So it's got these cute little themed medals themed for the races that I'm so excited about. I ran my first half marathon in 2019. I was very excited about it. Um, Full disclosure, I have a heart condition. So it was very exciting for me to do something that they never thought I'd be able to do. Like it was life changing for this experience. It was something I wanted to do forever, and I finally like pushed myself through it. I cried crossing that finish line like a little baby. It was glorious. Like the pictures are horrible, like absolutely horrible. Horrible pictures, but I made a glorious outfit because something special, life changing like that needs a special outfit. It's sort of like when you get married, you got to have a special outfit to commemorate the experience. And then I was so crazy, I decided to do it twice. Okay, and what I'm doing here is I'm just adding a few like lines to guide me for the hair's texture and flow. Because, the hair would sort of spill out at random. Like it would not be like smooth. Yes, absolutely crazy. There's this quote that I used to really love, and it said something along the lines of like, do the crazy thing, the hard to imagine thing, the somehow you did it thing, the no one would ever do it this way, but not trying is like dying. Do the thing anyway. Like it was something along those lines, and it was forever just sort of like in my mind. All right, and I'm gonna do the red kind of coming off of her scalp as well. Like it's gonna start off red, leaving her head. Like we're saying that that's her root color. Whether she dyes it that way or not, we don't know. She's magic. She's just magic. So she has magic hair. We're gonna go with that. She's got magic hair. Glorious red hair that never has to be dyed. The glory that be. All right, and now I'm going to start working in my cadmium orange. But I don't want to mess up where I've got my red lines kind of popping up. Let's see, what else do I have cut? I've got like a cute little like loose long sleeve shirt in the mix. I think I've got a dress in the mix, or at least partially cut out. That one may not be all the way cut out, but I'm working on things. I like to cut a lot of projects at the same time and then work on sewing them, because the cutting is my least favorite part. Because it's not the fun part, right? It's the planning part. It's the part where you have to like work to figure out how you're going to make it fit on the fabric that you don't have. Because I'm usually working with remnants. I don't often actually purchase fabric. One, because fabric is expensive, and two, because I've got a wonderful fabric godmother that gifts me fabric, and I love her. She's amazing. Shout out Marina, the grand darling on Instagram. Okay, and the orange is going to come out this way a little bit too. And then I'm going to start changing focus and moving to my yellow. I did actually run a second half marathon. I forced my mother-in-law to do it with me. I was very, very excited, and she thought I was trying to kill her. But we all had fun anyway. All right, and now I'm going to start working in my yellow. Yeah, we were not good. We did not train the way we should have for that race. We had stopped, and gosh, there were so many hills. So many hills. It was like death. I think I probably prayed for death like twice. And like the residents knew it was bad. Like the folks that lived on the streets that had the really tough hills were like, "You can do it." They were all standing on their driveways looking at us like, "You volunteered to do this on a Saturday. You crazy freaks. Like you signed up for this." And they were right. We did. Absolutely crazy. But so much fun. But it was worth it. We went for waffles afterwards, and I gotta say, I love me some waffles. And I'm gonna work in a little bit of my neon. All right, and I'm doing just the barest little bit of white at the tip. Just a little fraction of it. Not really super noticeable, but just enough that I can say that it's there and it's represented just like it is in the tail. Just a hint. And I guess I gotta make a decision about what color this bustier is gonna be. And the more I think on it, the more I think it should be like a super dark red. So I'm going to take my quinacridone scarlet and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of black. So I'm going to go ahead and outline it. And I think I'll make the corset part that's going to go underneath it just solid black. So I'm going to put my red in, and then I'm going to start mixing it with a little bit of black. There we go. And it should be like not all exactly solid. Like we're going to say maybe it's got like lace or something on it. So it's going to have a little bit of like, a little bit of interest. Might be darker up at the top. And we're going to say that the corset underneath her bustier is black. Because that's classic. Like, sometimes you just can't be classic. And no, I haven't forgotten about her straps. I just don't want to risk painting on them and getting my hand all in it. And because corsets have lining, they should have channels for their boning. So there's going to be some like white lines in here. They're going to help kind of reflect these channels that exist in boning. Okay, and then just a few more. And I'm not sure I like how the top of the bustier came out, so I think, oh, hello. Welcome. I think I'm going to lighten up this a little bit. I don't like how it blends in too hard with the corset. So we're going to change this up a little bit. Oh, hi. Thank you for dropping in. We are working on bustiers. And I think I'm going to lighten it up by using a little bit of white in the center. Because I'm not quite happy with how that came out. So I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. Oh, so cool! Digital art, that's exciting. It has been a long time since I've done digital art. The last time was probably when Photoshop 3 was out. Like, it's been a long time. I don't even know what iteration that's on now. Like, I remember Creative Suite 3. And now I feel ancient. Because I know that's on like a subscription now. All right, and I want to kind of fix that line a little bit. All right, and now I'm going to do my strap. And if you're having a hard time getting getting a clean line, you can always put a little bit of water on your brush, and that will help you get a nice clean line. Okay, and because the straps are coming backwards, like it's the furthest away from our light source, it should be a little darker. So we're going to work in a little bit of black. Just so that way, one, it doesn't blend in with her hair, and you're able to tell that that is further back in the image. We are creating foreground and background with that it wouldn't make sense to your eyes if it was all the same. All right, and I'm getting close to happy with how I wanted that to work out, but now I got to decide how I want to do like her panties. Like I was going to have like a little bit of a, well, you know what, we'll just go ahead and sketch in that spot. So if you're anxious about painting over something before drawing it, you can use chalk or you can use a watercolor pencil to help sketch in your line. And the best part is if you mess up, you can rinse it off. So I want to go ahead and put in a reference point for the line for her thigh high on this side. And it should be angled out to this side because it should go to the center of this thigh. And the same for this one, it should kind of come off to the side. So I kind of drew myself a small little like reference point for where that's supposed to go. Oh, going to a new school is tough. Like, mad sympathy. You can do it. Absolute faith. And now I gotta draw my other one, but I'm gonna thicken this line just a little bit. There we go. You should be. Starting someplace new is always exciting. I mean, it can be scary too, but exciting. Whenever I started a new job or anything, I like to get a special like new lunchbox, a special new outfit. It's like going. It has a very similar concept to going to a new school again. Okay, and the next thing is drawing out this line here because we've kind of existentially got like nude panties here is what it is. Like they're sort of meshy, but they're lined in like this black pico elastic. Very vintage vibe. Like this side part here would be see-through and there'd be like in a mesh panel. And then the panel in the middle is usually like a color. It's sort of super cute. In this case, I'm thinking that it should be, you know, a similar kind of mauve kind of color in the center. So we're going to go ahead and fill that kind of in. If you're wondering why I bothered to go ahead and paint the area with the flesh skin tone, it's because it helps in the deciding process when you're choosing colors and whatnot. Sometimes it's hard to see what you want until it's on the canvas. And even when I'm doing pet portraits, I will usually paint the skin of the dog on before I even put the fur in. Because if you know, it'd be natural for some skin to show in between the fur. And that translates well in art. Okay, and because this part is furthest away, I'm going to put a little bit of darker bit there. Again, continuing this concept of here's where the light source is. And we're going to go ahead and do like this suggestion of like this cute little like lace detail on the panties itself, which is just a cute little like swirl. Acrylic painting is so much fun. I definitely love it a lot. Yes, so all of my streams I do record to YouTube afterwards. So that way, you can always go back and reference them again and again. And I think in this particular case, I'm going to go ahead and do like the Pico elastic at the bottom, just like you would see in real lingerie, because that's a lingerie finish. That's actually how they finish off the edge, so that way it's not raw fabric, and it's also more comfortable for the skin. So, multi-purpose, beautiful and functional. And I actually took the design of both the bustier and the panties from my favorite indie pattern designer, Gertie Hirschwin, charmpatterns.com. Love her. And I'm also going to do a little bit on this inside of this seam over here. Just for some visual interest. All right, so we've got our panties in place. She's pretty. She's feeling super hot. I do need to put my busk closures here, so you will have a couple of little flat lines for where that would cross over. It's in the detail. All right. And now as for the part that would probably make a lot of people nervous, we're working on the actual thigh stockings now. All right, so I'm going to take my watercolor pencil. And I'm going to look at my reference. I got it off to the left there. And we're going to do the band kind of goes here. And then this one should be further back. They should not be right on top of each other. Because like I said, this leg is behind this one. All right, and I'm going to draw myself a quick little reference line. Again, it should come from the center of the thigh. It should sort of line up with your panty line there for your center panel. Okay, do or die, here we go. All right, so we got our first little impression line in, and second little impression line in. All right. Oh, yeah, it's only been a month. Girl, I took 6 months off of painting because I needed a break. I was painting so much that I got burned out on it. You can totally come back into any kind of art discipline. You can do it! Right, now I'm going to kind of outline this part and here. And I'm kind of going to do a little bit of line there, just so you can kind of see that, that it might be sort of filled in. It might be partially flesh toned. There is too much negativity in the world already. I don't need to add to that. Be a beacon. Be a beacon. That's all I'm going to say. It costs nothing to be nice. Okay, and then this line. All right. We're looking good. We're looking good. She's getting saucy. Okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and outline my leg. And it is a good idea to have a little water on your brush for this, so you have a nice clean line. All right, so we've got the outline of her stockings in there. And you can see now with that, drawing that line in, how much adding the skin tone added value to her. It added dimension. All right, so here is the tricky part. So what you want to do is start off in the corner, and keep in mind that your fishnets are like crosshaired, right? So you don't want to do it straight up and down. You want to do it sideways. And then you're going to do the same thing in the opposing direction. You want to keep the same kind of width so that you end up with neat little squares. And sorry, I'm not chatting through this part. It just makes it super hard to focus. All right, so I've got one leg in. All right, one leg is done. Now we're going to do the other one. You don't want to have too much paint on your brush because you do want this to be very light. You don't want a thick line for this. Not unless you're doing really wide, like fishnets. I guess at that point that might be a different story. But because this is an 8x10, that wouldn't make a lot of sense. And because I want to make sure that this is slightly different than this one, so you can kind of tell that one leg is over the other, I am going to do a slightly different directionality for my zigzags. Yes, yes. I don't know why that's the case. It's sort of like when sometimes when you're putting on makeup, you want to like hold your breath while you're doing it. I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that means. What is clutching?
When you're the last person alive and you win the round for your team.
Oh, okay. My mic is not as good as his. It picks up the everything. All right, so we've got our sexy fishnets then. All right, looking good, looking good. All right. All right, because this is a 50s style lady here, I am going to finish working on my bustier now. I don't know if you know a whole lot about like vintage fashion, but bras then are very different than bras now. They were more pointy, right? They were not quite like Madonna like. I don't even know if you guys know that reference, but they were definitely more cone shaped. Your eyes are dry enough. Or shouldn't that mean you need to blink more? I think that's what that means. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of do circle swirls here. I'm going to get a little lighter. Yes, 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 pointy bras. That's exactly it. They call them bullet bras. That's what they were. And oddly enough, um, they are more comfortable than the modern bras because they are made of cotton. And it's actually all of the synthetic materials in current bras that make them so uncomfortable. All right, and I'm going to take my dotting tool and I'm going to use that to do a center point. All right. Oh, and I've kind of got a little bit too much white in one spot. I see that now. I need to correct that. It got a little too lumped there. There we go. Now we're cooking with gas. Okay. So I'm just going to add a little more of my red into my strap here. Get in a nice rich color. And I'm going to go around her hairline a little more with some darker red. It needs a little more richness in that spot because it should be a lot darker at her scalp. So we're going to start thinking about her face here in a minute. Okay. Now, it helps me to have my image up a little bit closer, so I'm going to grab my reference image here real quick, where I actually sketched it out. Just so I can have it to compare the eye shape to. All right. So for our lips, I kind of go here, and it's just a very small smile. She's got like a smug satisfaction smile, like, yeah, I know I'm hot. What of it? Just a cute little pinup lips. And her nose is just a little suggestion of a divot because I'm not into painting noses. That's not my thing. But her eyes, she's going to have her eyes closed, and they're going to be kind of big. And we're going to draw in some mascara. In fact, let me do that a little bit bigger. There we go. Nice big eyes. And the way you do this kind of shape is you're going to do like a closed parentheses. And then you're going to draw a line from your closed parentheses to the start of your eye. And that's how you get like the idea of false eyelashes. And she should have some nice little arched eyebrows, and they should be like a dark red. Although let me add some more red to her part. Yes! Yes, including bullet bra. I want to see it. All right, so eyebrows. They were very arched, right? And they should mirror like the shape of the closed eye. So it's going to kind of come up to a V and then dip out. And there were no such thing as like shy eyebrows. These were big, dramatic eyebrows. I love dressing up and doing big eyebrows in the parks. Like, favorite. And I am going to put a little bit of, like, mix just a tiny little bit of black in there and kind of mix it up a little bit on the canvas because it really should be darker than her actual hair color I've got listed. It should be darker. There. All right, so we've got our eyebrows, we've got our nose, we've got our cute little lips. Although I think I'm gonna make those a little bit bigger. Like she's shamelessly hot. Like she knows it. Big lips, big lip energy. There we go. Okay. And now I'm going to kind of touch up around the ear a little bit up here because I do want this to be like a little more noticeable. Put a little bit of like white in the center of the ear. Isn't she hot? Like she's totally hot. I want to be her. Can I be her? I want to be her.
You're hotter.
I'm hotter? Aw, thanks, babe. Although I want to date her. I want to date her. She looks hot. Okay. All right, so we've got the basics in, but at this point we could probably still like punch it up just a little more. Like we could still go further with this if we really wanted to. I think I want to add a little texture to my tails. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my fan brush. And they look something like this. Well, I don't know what her actual alter ego looks like. Does she look like this? Like, is she different color? Like, what?
I think we're developing it as we speak.
Character development. I love it. Here for it. Except for I want a slightly smaller fan brush. I need a little more control. All right, so I'm going to dip just a piece of this, like not the whole thing, into the white paint, like literally just the corner. And I'm going to feather the edges here. It's going to make it look more like fur. We are creating texture. Okay. Oop, I picked up a little red there. Did not mean to do that. That was a whoopsie. But it's a whoopsie I can live with. It looks good. All right, and I'm just dabbing at the edges with this white. Nothing too intense, just wanting to keep the line from being too smooth. All right. And I'm going to do it a little down here too, just because I want it to be like very obvious that it's fur. I don't want it to be mistaken for anything else. And I am going to go ahead and put a little at the edge of each of these. Again, just so it helps differentiate between it and the tail next to it. Nice. Well, if you ever want to learn to sew, I know all the patterns you can use to make this, minus the fishnet. I mean, no point to make that unless you can crochet. And I'm not about that life either. That's too much work. Wait, wasn't she supposed to be sleeping? Wasn't she supposed to be sleeping?
She's nauseous. She's trying to nap.
Oh, poor girl. Poor baby.
Did you just talk about Aki like she was one of our dogs?
Did we not just take possession of her? I mean, just saying. Feel like I'm now invested in her emotional well-being. So I'm talking to her the way I talk to my coworkers, actually. All right, and I think that about calls her done. What do you think? Is she hot? Do you want to date her? I want to date her. Very nice. All right. Yes, yes. I routinely adopt people. It's what I do. I love taking and making in new friends and joining them into my circle and sort of like co-opting them into my hobbies so that way they can enjoy them as much as I do, even if they didn't originally enjoy them like I do. The goal is to convert everybody into a seamstress or a painter or just whatever it takes for them to live their most creative life. But at this point, my lady is done. She's very foxy, so all I gotta do is sign my name. And I am going to use light blue. I'm gonna use light blue to sign my name because that's my color. You should. All right, so I would definitely recommend checking out Gertie's Patreon. She releases a new pattern every month, and she actually does a video with them. So that way, if you're not sure how a direction is supposed to be done, you can watch her do it. And it covers all of the tricky stuff. And she's even got a few free patterns up on her website. Strongly recommend. Like, she is awesome, and she's very size inclusive. Sizes 2 through 36 for most of her patterns. So definitely recommend checking it out. All right, well, you guys have a lovely rest of your day or evening or a good morning, whatever the case may be. And I hope you have a wonderful life-affirming day. Bye, everyone.